This is just a quick video for beginners that really don't have any experience with electric RC planes, and some tips on what they're about, just an introduction of what they're about, and then one thing that you really need to be careful of, because you can really get hurt pretty badly. Okay, so let me start with the intro then. So if you've been in RC planes, maybe sometime back, you've probably flown a plane that had like a glow fuel, or now they have a gas fuel motors, right? And in these planes, nothing's going to really move until you put some kind of starter on here, and you crank up that prop, and that prop starts going, right? And that's something that you're intentionally doing, okay? So electric planes are a little bit different, right? Basically, if you flip a switch and that prop starts going. So we're going to see here in just a second. Well, that's something you really need to be pretty careful about. So maybe just spend a couple minutes on electronic planes, and so you can get a little bit idea how they work. So here's a plane, typical plane, where basically you've got a prop here. There's a motor in here that's going to turn that prop. That motor is actually connected to this connection here. And this provides power to the motor. Okay, so when we plug in the battery here, you're going to get power to the motor. Okay, the receiver, you can see the receiver down there. In the days for planes, or I guess older planes, and then planes that are still gas powered, you need some kind of battery to drive the receiver. Okay, and that's typically how it's done there. But with the electric planes, for the most part, the receiver gets its power from this battery. Okay, so the battery's driving not only the prop, but it's also driving the receiver. And so the way it does that is that in between the motor and the battery is a thing called an ESC, electronic speed control. Okay, so the battery is going to plug in here. There's 3 leads that go to the motor, and then there's a lead right here that goes to the receiver. Okay, and it connects into the throttle channel of the receiver. So you can see that right down here, where this cable, kind of hard to see with this bird's nest of wires, but basically it connects in. If I can get that to zoom in down there, it connects to the throttle channel of the receiver. Okay, bear with me one second. I'll show you that. Okay, hopefully it zooms in. I'll try and zoom this in a little bit. Okay. So you can see the throttle there, and the red, white, and black wires, that's where it's connected. Okay, so what this does is 2 things. It allows the receiver to control the speed of the prop, the throttle, okay? And the receiver is also getting its power from this cable here, which is running to the ESC, right, that we showed here. And then the ESC gets its power from the battery. Okay, so once all that's hooked up, that motor has power, and it can start up straight away. Okay, so let me just kind of demonstrate this, and things just you kind of need to be careful of. Okay, so here's the transmitter for this. Okay, and let me hook up the battery here, so you got power to this. All right, so now we got power to the radio and to the receiver, and you can hear those noises are coming from this ESC that's down here that you can't really see. It's underneath there. Okay, basically it's this thing here. Okay, and we got a green light, and that thing is all ready to go. There's nothing, you don't have to do anything to the prop or anything like that. So let me see if I can demonstrate what you have to be really careful of here, right? So on my my transmitter here, this is the throttle, okay? And I've got mine set up so that if I push this up, nothing happens, okay? what I've got essentially is a switch over here called a throttle kill. And if that switch is on the throttle kill position, then the transmitter doesn't send any throttle signal to the receiver. But if that thing is not on the throttle kill, that motor can potentially go to full speed straight away. Okay, and that's one of the challenges with this electronic speed control. And bear with me just a second. Let me disconnect that just to be safe. That's one of the things you have to be very careful of. Okay, so when I started out, I didn't know any of this, and I couldn't figure out. I was hooking up the prop to this right here, and my receiver wasn't coming on, and I couldn't figure out why the receiver wasn't coming on, why I couldn't get my prop to change or to go or anything like that. So one of the documents that you find online with the planes when you buy them at some of these places is there's this ESC document, right? So it talks a lot about how to calibrate and how it works and all sorts of things. But what I want to highlight was this right here. It's how to program your ESC with your transmitter. Okay, if you're a beginner, seems like a normal thing to do. So if you start reading it, it says, please make sure throttle curve is set at 0 when throttle position is at the bottom and 100% at top. Okay, that's great. We go on down to the next section, enter programming mode, turn transmitter switch on, turn switch on transmitter, move the throttle stick to top position and connect the battery to the ESC. So that should be a big red flag, right? You should not be setting that throttle stick to the top position when the ESC is turned on. You just saw what happened when I flipped that switch, okay? And then the next step, it goes on that basically when you plug in the battery, you'll hear certain beeps, and then you're supposed to move the throttle stick to the bottom within 3 seconds and blah, blah, blah. What they don't say here is before you do anything on this piece of paper, you must remove that prop. You must remove that prop. Because in this case, when I did it, when I followed these instructions, when I turned on the receiver, had the throttle full up, plugged in the battery, and when I came over here and I moved the throttle stick to the bottom, on another plane, that prop went full speed right into my foot, and I didn't have any shoes or socks on. And it put a pretty big gash in my foot, okay? That's been, 8 weeks ago, and I'm still trying to heal from that. A friend of mine, he did essentially the same thing. The prop went right into his forearm last Saturday, 19 stitches, okay? So the moral story here is, or the rule of thumb is, first of all, don't ever get in front of the plane that has a prop, okay? And if you're going to do anything with regard to the battery or the prop or the ESC, the motor, take the prop off, okay? Take the prop off, okay? It's real simple. This is a spinner. It has 3 screws. You unscrew them. Underneath here is a one nut that's a 10 metric wrench, and you can pull that prop right off. But if you don't, and that thing goes full throttle, it'll go right into you, and it will cut you like warm butter, okay? So just be aware of that. Okay, so maybe just one more thing. So talk about EDS, right? Electric duct fan jets, right? So here's an F-15 that hasn't been built yet, okay? The nice thing about them is there's no exposed prop, right? Anywhere on this plane, there's no exposed prop, okay? So you won't, if you turn the throttle all the way up and you plug in the battery, and that thing decides to go to full throttle, then it won't hurt you. Now that EDF may fly into your wall and embed itself into the wall, but it doesn't have an exposed prop. Okay, so just for those that aren't familiar with the EDF, basically you've got a motor down there. Hopefully you can see that, and you can see a fan that's down in there. And what it does is that motor turns that fan at a very high RPMs, and it basically forces air, sucks air from the front of the plane, those inlets, and then compresses it and pushing it out these back holes, and that's what gives it the thrust. Okay, so okay, so the other tip here then, let's coming back to the throttle, is that on almost all the receivers now, they have the ability to define a throttle cut switch. Okay, so on mine, that's what this switch is. On some of the base units, they already have this set up. Okay, if you're going to do any electric RC planes, definitely the first thing is to set up the throttle cut. So in mine, if the switch in this is in this position here, right, then it doesn't matter what I do with the throttle. The transmitter is not going to send a command to the receiver to move that, to turn the prop. Okay, only when I flip this will that throttle now be active. So that's one of the things I'd suggest, is the very first thing in setting up a plane is make sure you set up that throttle cut, because if you don't, you can have the potential of getting bit. And these are high energy, high RPM motors, and these blades are pretty hard plastic or maybe in some cases carbon fiber, and they will cut you pretty good. So anyways, just a quick tip from a beginner that I kind of learned the hard way. I'll do some more tips, things that I've learned that hopefully I can prevent someone else from going through the school of hard knocks, which is what myself and my buddy are doing right now. But hopefully that's been helpful. And again, be very careful of the electronic planes, especially that prop, and take that prop off if you're ever going to work on it. Okay, till next time, thanks.